You're listening to The Signal Daily. Hi, I'm Shaurburi, your host for The Signal Daily podcast. This is the episode for 2nd July 2024. Today we talk about the impact of Swiftonomics and India's new criminal laws. Stay tuned till the end of this episode. Without a doubt, Taylor Swift is more than just a pop icon. She is a phenomenon. So much of a phenomenon that when she embarks on a tour, her presence makes an economic impact. They call it Swiftonomics. Her Eras tour is the highest grossing ever. It's the first one to rake in over $1 billion with around 4.35 million tickets sold across 60 tour dates. People don't just flock to her performances, like I said. Just her presence boosts local economies along the way. Countries want her undivided attention. When Taylor flew to Singapore in March, the country had an exclusivity contract with her that kind of upset the Philippines and Thailand. I mean, Taylor, who's touring in Paris right now, is totally eclipsing the upcoming Olympics. According to a New York-based luxury travel agency, Embark Beyond, her concerts are drawing 5 times as many US visitors as the Paris Olympics. But here's a thought. What if Swiftonomics isn't real? Because that's what a Reuters article is examining. Taking Stockholm as an example, the article notes that close to 180,000 fans attended her 3 shows in May, with half of them coming from abroad and generating close to 850 million crowns, roughly $81 million, in turnover for the city. Now, this was great for the city where hotels and restaurants hit the jackpot, but that was the end of the Swift effect. Some economists are of the opinion that Swiftonomics doesn't have far-reaching implications on the global economy or international trade and globalization. The effect is limited and local. Then a Swiftonomics report by Barclays also suggested that each Swiftie attending the Eras tour in the UK is predicted to splash out £848 on tickets, travel, accommodation, outfits and other expenses, which is 12 times more than the average cost of a UK night out. Now that's got to be great for the UK, right? But as the Reuters report also points out, much of the income from the Swift tour will end up in the United States. Now, I don't claim to be an economist, but you got to admit the Taylor Swift effect is unlike anything else. And now for our second segment, we are going to bring you deep dives on stories from the world of technology, business, policy, and anything that leaves you with food for thought. India's legal system has just gone through a big overhaul with new timelines and new processes in place. I'm sure you're already following this big news, right? So there are now 3 new penal laws that have come into effect from 1st July. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, or the BNS, the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, or the BNSS, and the Bharatiya Saksha Adhiniyam, or the BSA, which replaced the colonial-era IPC and the Indian Evidence Act that were enacted in 1860 and 1872 respectively, and the CRPC that was brought in 1973. Now, the idea behind this revamp was to decolonize and modernize India's criminal justice system because, while the country has been an independent republic for 3/4 of a century, a lot of its legal systems and criminal codes were hand-me-downs from the highly prejudiced British-era laws, which are unfit for a democracy. So if you look at it from that perspective, any attempt to decolonize and update antiquated laws that is unsuitable for modern India would ideally be welcomed with a red carpet. Except the 3 new laws are also bringing out a fair amount of skepticism from the legal quarters. Let's dive into the hits and misses. So the first big concern around the new laws is a lack of transparency in the way that they were drafted and the way that they were passed in the parliament during the winter session without adequate discussion. I mean, these bills were passed in the Lok Sabha in the absence of 97 MPs who were suspended at that time. As per the PRS Legislative, which is a non-profit that documents legislations and parliamentary sessions, only 34 members participated in the discussion, 25 of whom belonged to the BJP. And a similar scene played out in the Rajya Sabha as well, where 40 members participated, of which 30 belonged to the BJP. Now, the second criticism is that it's not really that much of a quote-unquote reform of the old laws at all. A lot of the older provisions are still there with different labels and names, like, for instance, the draconian sedition law. It was introduced by the British mainly to repress free speech against the colonial government. And this hateful colonial-era legacy made it to modern India, where sedition laws have been used to suppress any kind of dissent. And as some legal experts point out, while the term sedition has been removed, it has kind of been reintroduced in Section 152 of the BNS as, quote-unquote, acts endangering sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. So, sedition, basically. Further, something like marital rape still hasn't been criminalized. The new laws explicitly state that, quote-unquote, sexual intercourse or sexual acts by a man with his wife, the wife not being under 18 years of age, is not rape, end quote. I mean, how archaic could that thought be? And it's not just marital rape alone, but the new laws also miss out a lot on gender justice generally, as experts point out. Anyway, moving on, there are some significant and positive changes as well. The new laws will, for instance, digitize the entire legal process from FIR to charge sheet. There are also provisions for video recording crime scenes and search and seizure operations. And most importantly, now you can file a zero FIR, which means that any person can lodge an FIR at any police station, irrespective of the jurisdiction. And I don't need to tell you how cumbersome the previous process was. So this has got to be a relief. And some new crimes have also been added. One clause of the BNS, for instance, introduces and penalizes sexual intercourse achieved through deceitfulness, such as promise of marriage and employment. And for the first time, mob lynching on grounds such as race, caste, community, sex, and place of birth is a separate offence punishable by death or life imprisonment. While this did earn the government some appreciation, the entire legal fraternity isn't chuffed. I mean, their workload is definitely going to increase. Their resources will also be stretched thin because the older crimes will be tried under the older laws, and only those registered from 1st July onwards will be tried under the BNS. Besides, there are still some questionable bits, some grey areas that need to be addressed. If you like listening to The Signal Daily, please show some support. Rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this podcast. So feel free to shoot an email at shorbary@thecore.in. This episode was written, researched and produced by me, Shorbary, edited by Venkat Ananth, mastered and mixed by Yash Hirve. You can catch this podcast every morning on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime Music, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are thesignal.co on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.